I think a lot of people who think about migration from Africa to other places think of it as a sign of failure, that there aren't enough jobs, there are not enough opportunities in the origin. And certainly that's true for many individual families. But as a broader part of the development of Africa, migration out of Africa is actually a sign of success. It's a sign of development success.
How so?
In various ways. In economic ways, when people have more disposable income, they can do things like invest in the education that gives them opportunities abroad. As poor countries develop towards middle-income countries, that is, as countries go from being, say, the income per capita of Malawi or Mali, more towards the income per capita of Botswana or Algeria, people get a lot more education. Investing in education of their children is one of the first things they do. And this not only gives people more opportunity to migrate, because the more education you have, the easier it is, but also, in a broader sense, the aspiration to migrate. That is, the more access you have to high school and college education, the more you tend to look for the best place in the world that you could make your contribution. In a demographic sense, when people start to get higher incomes, they invest in things that prevent their children from dying. And the deaths of children before age 5 has been dropping like a rock across Africa for the last 20 years.
In other words, there's more people to migrate because there's more people.
Yes, there's a huge surge of young Africans into the labor market over the next 30 years.
What do you advise European governments to do or to think about policy-wise, based on this idea that it's not necessarily bad news, it's the result of good news that all these migrants are coming in?
Policy efforts of Europe and many other places, certainly the United States, right now are very much focusing on limiting migration. And a lot more policy effort needs to be dedicated to innovation, to creating new ways for migration to happen that is mutually beneficial to the countries where migrants are going and the countries where they're leaving.
I suppose that you have some ideas about what some of these innovations might be or how people should think about it?
There are many, but one that I think is particularly promising is something we call global skill partnerships. For example, the Gambia partnering with an employer, such as a nursing home in Germany, where the employer in the destination country agrees to provide finance, language training, and technical training in the Gambia before migration in return for service of potential migrants in Germany.
What's another idea?
But one of the leading examples of innovation in fostering migration for mutual benefit is in New Zealand. It's called the Recognized Seasonal Employer Program. This is an initiative of the New Zealand Aid Agency, and it increases the household income of typical participants in Tonga by 9 times, but not through taxing New Zealanders and giving it to people in Tonga. They come to New Zealand and work hard on farms. That grows the New Zealand economy. That adds value to the New Zealand economy. And the workers' share of that is 12,000 New Zealand dollars a year. That's just their share of the degree to which they've expanded the economy of New Zealand. They are sharing the benefits of migration between New Zealand and Tonga in a way that is fair and reasonable, doing more than many aid programs, but not at cost to anyone, by making the world economy larger.
Your report seems to imply that these sort of partnerships must arise in the coming decades.
Absolutely. By 2050, there will be 800 million more working age people in sub-Saharan Africa than there are now. It's just not possible that exactly the number of jobs that those 800 million kids need are going to exist in the countries where they come from. And that means we need to be preparing for a lot more migration. How can we turn them into a resource? How can we allow them to make the contribution that they could make rather than becoming a burden to anybody? They don't have to be.